Today we're heading north to one of the last communities along Highway 155, where a community lays just south of the Clearwater River Provincial Park, with many scenic routes, lakes, and rivers surrounding it. Welcome to Season 9 of MuniCast.
I grew up in a small town. I'm small town at heart. I moved to the city, but deep down I've not gone that far. No matter where my roots take me, I grew up in a small town and I still got one foot on Main Street.
MuniCast is brought to you by SUMA, the voice of Saskatchewan's urban municipalities. MuniCast discusses topics that are important to you, municipal leaders, like local governance, best practices, education, and so much more. Now, in Season 9, we are meeting SUMA's Board of Directors. SUMA has adopted a new, modern governance structure, built from a thorough governance review and member consultation. Now, this new structure is a caucus model with 7-member board and 34 representatives from villages, resort villages, towns, cities, and yes, northern municipalities across all regions of the province, marking the beginning of a new chapter for SUMA. Now, in this edition of Muni-Cast, we are honored to sit down and speak with SUMA Vice President of Northern Municipalities and the Mayor of La Loche, Saskatchewan, Lyle Herman. Now, our interview with Vice President Herman right after this quick message from SUMA.
From the smallest villages to the largest cities, every day your urban municipality supports you. The water that travels from tap to sewer, the emergency services that keep you safe, the parks, libraries, and rinks that you enjoy, our cities, towns, villages, resort villages, and northern municipalities are urban hubs bringing people together. We are urban. Celebrate your municipality as part of the urban family.
Mayor Herman, thank you so much for sitting down with us and talking about yourself, talking about SUMA, and talking about the new governance caucus model that SUMA adopted earlier this year. But before we talk about SUMA, let's get to know the man behind the persona a little bit, if you don't mind. And I've got to start with a simple question, Lyle. What made you get involved in municipal government, Lyle?
You know that might be a simple question, but where I got to be here today is a sort of a long question, but sort of at the brief of it, I'd say about 8 months or 9 months back when me and my friends were socializing. Then I pretty much told them, you know what, I'm gonna be the mayor. That was a joke at the time. So as time went on, summer came, and then I jokingly posted and says that I'm gonna run for mayor. But I guess people took it seriously, and I wasn't thinking at this time. I've been involved on certain boards when I was younger. When I say that, I sound old, but I'm not. I'm 34. But and then election time came, nominations were open, and it's not something that I took very lightly. There was some support from some leaders and from the community. And then I pretty much submitted my papers at the last minute, and here I am, a year some later. And then and prior to that, I've never served on council. I was never a councillor. I was never, in office before, and straight to being the mayor. So
Okay, so there's a lot to unpack there, Lyle, for a few seconds. But okay, you jokingly say you want to be mayor. 6 months later, you are mayor. A year later, you're now mayor plus the SUMA representative for Northern Municipalities. Are you falling into these positions left, right, and center? Because it seems like a guy with no political experience is one of the most political operatives of Northern Saskatchewan right now.
Yeah, so I guess if you're gonna ask me the question later, I can answer it later on, and like how I got to SUMA. But we can leave it till later or now. It's up to
Let's
you.
do it now. Let's do it now. So, how did you decide you wanted to get involved in SUMA? But actually, before that, can I ask, had you known about SUMA prior to being on the board? Like, did you know that SUMA was a great advocacy organization, a great collaborative organization that works with municipalities?
No, really, I just heard something on Facebook or something before, and that's about it. And I had very little knowledge about it, so like I like to believe I'm a very truthful man, so well, the answers I give you is as honest as it comes.
So, what made you decide to put your name forward? Or again, did you say it jokingly and then people in the caucus were like, okay, Lyle, if you're jokingly saying it, you're going to do it now?
Oh, how that came to being was so I was elected mayor, and then there was a New North meeting, and I later on found out at New North when we were in Prince Albert that I guess it's usually primarily the mayors of the North. There are some councils that also serve on the board. So primarily, like I said, it's usually to the mayors, but all municipal leaders, anyone is entitled to. And then, um, and at that meeting, there was SUMA representatives, and then saying that SUMA is being restructured, and there was nominations taking place at that time. So I got appointed to New North, and I said when I got nominated by one of the members, and then I told them that, I'm a new elected mayor. I'm new, first time in office, and I said I don't know what I can deliver. And then there was, I forget her name, but there was another member that stood up and said, well, not everybody knows everything the first time. So they said we want a new young leader. So, and then there was five of us, and then there was a voting that took place, and then I was appointed. And then SUMA was where, again, like I said, I have it, and then there was a time to appoint someone to SUMA board. And then I was asked, and then I said, that, no, I don't want to because I have a lot of learning myself. Like I literally became the mayor like 2 months ago. So that came, and then I said my speech, and then that I said that I have a great council, I have a great administrator, so that is guiding me, that will lead me. There are three council that are older. There's three new council that was elected. So I told that when I gave my speech, and I said I'm not sure if I can deliver what you guys want me to deliver. But I told them very clear, I'm new, I'm learning a lot, so I'm like pretty much like a sponge learning as I go. So and then there was three people that stepped down, and then there was another guy, and I got voted in, and I'm the White VP of the Northern Caucus of SUMA.
So,
So yeah, I'm on a huge learning curve still, but
but it seems, and I mean this like I'm not trying to blow smoke or anything, but it seems like you have a spice for life. It seems like you're an energetic guy. You seem to enjoy life. It seems that in the short time that you and I have been able to chat right now, it seems like you're enjoying the learning curve that you've been on. Have you been?
well, at being young, I was 33, right? And then I just turned 34 in the springtime. And then there were times where, Northern, as a large community where I come from, a lot of times it's looked up to the leaders for a lot of things. And then there are times where of course, I'm a human being. I was overwhelmed at first. But like I said, with the council behind me and the administrator that I have, and the support system from other leaders that I know, like I said, I had to remind myself that I will not know everything all at once, but I'm learning as I go. But overall, it's been a great learning experience. It still is, and I think it's always going to be. And times change, and you have to adapt with the modern world. I like to put it. So, but as far as to date, uh, 13 some months later, I like to believe, not believe, I am enjoying what I'm doing now. I'm advocating for my community, not just for my community, for the 35 municipalities I represent in the north. Recently, I was in Ottawa, but that was another. I don't want to get into it, but yeah, I'm enjoying it so far.
I did watch your Senate hearing in Ottawa, so I want to talk about that maybe off the record with you if you don't mind. But I want to
Yeah,
talk, if you don't mind, about SUMA, the organization. Now, you are relatively, if I'm not mistaken, and I've done most of the interviews with every single board member, you're relatively one of the newest elected officials that's sitting around that board of directors table. I think you are the only first-term mayor who is a vice president or a president. So, in your short 13 months being a mayor and even on the board of directors for SUMA, what has SUMA meant to you?
as I learned more, and I've learned more that SUMA is a great advocacy for all municipalities in Saskatchewan. And when I looked at SUMA from the bits and where I've learned, as much as I've been learning about SUMA, is that it's about getting answers that you don't know. Primarily in the north, what New North, I would like to see New North be something similar to SUMA, but at the same time, SUMA is like a big brother to New North, right? So where, northern municipalities, council and mayors look for you're asking questions, whereas New North, we should be the ones answering, but at the same time, SUMA is a big brother where we can get those answers. So I found that SUMA has been the way that it is structured, I found that it's very good. I have no problems with it so far. Um, will New North adopt to this? I'm not sure. That's something that the members will have to, I guess, get answers from. Well, as a board, we represent 35 communities as a New North board, but and then I represent New North to SUMA. So I like to believe that SUMA is like a big brother to New North and also for all municipalities in Saskatchewan where you're looking for questions, they have the answers. And I found that SUMA is so well developed that that's something not seen in the north for sure.
The the role of SUMA is to advocate for all municipalities of all sizes, and it's a collaborative approach. What's going right in, say, southern Saskatchewan may be able to be transposed in northern Saskatchewan and vice versa. When you look at the role that you play on the board of directors for SUMA, how do you see yourself being able to advocate for such a diverse population in the Northern Caucus? Because I can imagine if you go to Orange or even to La Loche yourself, you're going to hear the same issues, but you're going to hear some unique issues as well. How do you take those unique challenges to the board?
Well, it is when you say a wide range of population, not just that, it's pretty much half of almost Saskatchewan, right? That I represent. And the thing is, we're also scattered, from Larange to La Loche. It's to the back, there's gravel road, pay road, and sometimes not so great. And it's about a 5.5 hour drive. That's on a summer day. In the wintertime, it could be, winter driving is always crazy. But, you know, our problems are, I guess, when I speak to about other board members so that you interview, that we have all similar issues, but now one of the issues that we face in the north primarily is policing, right? But to advocate, and that's what a part of the video that you saw me when I was in Ottawa, is that I am advocating for not just my community, but I know there's one community in the north. It's where they have no officers. So we're dealing with where I'm supposed to have 19 members. Right now I have 10. At one point it was down to 5, serving 6,000 plus population. So I hope in advocating through SUMA that we address it to the federal level, where I've been addressing to the provincial and federal level as from being mayor. But I've also, when I was in Ottawa, that I did mention that I am the representative of SUMA, VP of the North, and that it is a crisis in the North. So pretty much saying I'm trying to voice my concerns as loud as possible. So
Which is understandable, and it gets to the point of the board as well, because when you sit down with the board of directors, whether it be President Golden, Vice President Donauer, and all the other vice presidents at the SUMA board of directors meetings in Regina or over Zoom, when you bring this up, there's a collaborative approach that the board takes, because your issues are their issues are your issues, and it's a Saskatchewan challenge of making sure that every community feels like they have a voice, right? And when you
mhm.
talk to people in either Regina or even in Ottawa, it's not just a northern issue, it's a Saskatchewan issue at the end of the day, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
So we are about 10 months of, oh, actually, let's do this basic math here, Chris, properly. 8 months since SUMA adopted the new governance caucus model, which was adopted by the members at this year's convention in beautiful Saskatoon. Have you met with your new quote unquote caucus, and how are your members feeling about said caucus?
Oh, yeah, so far, as far as like I said, I'm learning a lot as I go. But as far as I know from the people that are aware of SUMA, and that I have no issues with it, and this is something that I will be reporting back to my community. It's something that I do monthly on the radio, the local radio station, is that a lot of my job has also been trying to educate people, my community members, of what municipality does and how it works. And now it's SUMA. I have not reported my trip to Ottawa yet, but that is coming up next week. So a lot of been is also educating myself of how municipalities work, and now SUMA. I'm hoping that in turn, educating more of my community members will understand how municipalities work and how we have the same issues right throughout, not just the north, but throughout the province. Communities are, a lot of communities that we face don't realize that a lot of even smaller municipalities usually are on a volunteer basis. So we are not a lot of times where it's either the education key is not there, that members don't realize how things work. So that is something that has been part of my role to my community members to try to make them understand and educate a lot of it. So I try to break it down as how things work. So I'm not coming to comment on this also.
I want to turn, if you don't mind, to some of the challenges. When you're speaking to mayors across the north who are in the Northern Caucus, in your caucus, what is the biggest challenges you hear repeatedly from municipal leaders across the Northern Caucus?
I guess our biggest challenges what we face in northern communities, of course, there's always healthcare, policing, mental and housing, of course, is always an issue. But I've asked other mayors and through SUMA, well, I guess I guess our problems are primarily all the same, but one of the things that I'd like to say is with the resources that we have, what can we do? For an example, in healthcare, I remember this one lady who used to have special clinics where doctors would fly in the communities, have special clinics in versus you have 30 patients that might need ultrasound that have to travel, which is very costly. But if you have one doctor coming into this community treating 30 patients, then it's more effective. Whereas, other much more northern communities as flying communities, even just as simple as, hearing checkup, eye exams, these things can be coordinated where I don't know, a lot of I've never been to northern communities yet where it's a flying community yet, but I know that I've seen them have the receipts saying that one flight one way is like $1,500 to get to Saskatoon, and that is usually Health Canada paying for the First Nations. But if to a person that doesn't have coverage, it's nearly impossible to leave your community. So we I like to think about what resources do we have that we can use for the time being. We're always advocating northern communities need better roads. I know one community that's not in the northern section. It's was it Cumberland House right there? So I remember one time I was seeing the news where the roads are so bad it's closed off in the summertime. It's raining heavy. So in northern issues that we always face housing, healthcare, and policing primarily, especially now more than ever before. But if I can get if we, do we have time to talk about housing?
That's what
So in
I
terms,
was literally about to ask you about housing because it seems to be a topic of much discussion in 2025, almost 2026 right now, where housing seems to be a big challenge. And I say this respectfully, not just for northern Saskatchewan, but I'd say across all of Saskatchewan, housing seems to be a challenge right now.
mhm,
But it could be more exacerbated by in northern Saskatchewan, and that's why you're here to tell me if I'm true or not about that.
yeah. So, housing definitely is a crisis right all across Canada as we see it, not just housing, but affordability. Where I talked to one of my board members, Abby from Larange, he's a counselor there,
I love
and we
Abby.
talked about, yeah, where we talked about how much rental costs is and everything. Um, my At some point in my community, Methy Housing and Methy Construction was established to combat housing. But the way that so it is it is under the control of the village. So the mayor and council, it is a branch committee. So this was developed because you and I know that municipal council can ask for funding, but this subcommittee was established to ask for grants, loans, etc. So under the control of the village, we have allowed, so our one bedroom units is $400, our two bedrooms is $500, and I believe I'm not sure about this one, our four bedroom house is like $700 or $800. I think it's $800, but it shows that it's under the control of the village that we dictate pretty much what rental is, but this was established not means of profit, but to combat the housing and also the cost of living. Because there is another organization in our community, it's called nonprofit housing. It's based solely on your income. But the challenges that was faced in the north was that, the more money you make, the higher rent goes. But if we're trying to help people, then how is that solving that problem? Because we in northern as northern leaders, we look at a lot of things we travel for: our clothing, medical, food. In northern communities, a lot of primarily northern has monopoly on northern communities, but we're fortunate enough that Meadow Lake is 3.5 hours away. And then it's to people that live in the cities, I like to say, it's crazy that sometimes we go a 6 hour drive to Saskatoon for grocery shopping, and sometimes we can do it all in one day. Sometimes we leave like 5 in the morning, get there, it's 11 o'clock, a few hours shopping on our way home, right? And that's why, like, even our vehicles, our mileage are so high. So, but in terms of housing, there's just not one factor, right? Of help people with living costs, but the other things that we think about that goes with it. So I like to think if this could be adopted, right, either throughout Canada or to combat the living costs, where we decide engage municipalities in the same thing that we're doing, even in city-wise. Do they start, building apartments under the control of the village that the city owns? In return, it's the people own it, right? So
So I
there's
want
that, but I don't want to
to
get into depth about that.
but I want to pick up on that for a second because SUMA is a advocacy organization. It is a the voice of Saskatchewan's urban municipalities, which northern municipalities are under that umbrella. And I've heard President Golden talk about housing. I've heard her talk about northern highways. I've heard her talk about northern healthcare, northern policing. And it seems to be that voice that we can talk to our provincial representatives. Yes, it's great for mayors to also talk to their local MLAs, but when you have that provincial wide voice talking to the provincial government around these issues, if it's healthcare, if it's housing, if it's policing, there's a stronger message that is delivered. How do you think SUMA is positioned to address these big issues that we've been talking about over the last half hour?
I think SUMA is well positioned in terms of advocating not just to the provincial government, right? It is also as well as the federal. It's not always federal in terms of which polices RCMP. City policing is its own thing. But policing wise, that we need to work hand in hand with the provincial and federal government about a lot of these issues. And how SUMA is that, I represent the Northern Caucus, where I talk to, well, I'm still working on trying to get to engage with all the members, right? But I primarily talk to the closer communities where I'm from. There's the mayor from Buffalo Narrows, Alan. I haven't met the new mayor yet. She was just recently elected in a by-election. I've talked to Mayor La Liberty from Beauval, Mayor Gardner from Buffalo, and there's a Mayor Janvier from St. George's Hill. But
Okay.
primarily, all these other leaders that I talk to, that I represent SUMA, that we're all not one voice, but we're a voice of many. So we're addressing this as a whole. So I like to believe that SUMA is well positioned in that, for that we're saying this is coming from all this other municipal leaders. So I like to think that. So
So I have two last questions for you here, Vice President, Mayor Lyle. If you don't, I don't know how to call you because you have so many titles in a short year period. So let's just leave it at that. But I want to talk about collaboration for just a quick second, because the best thing I've ever heard from municipal leaders is municipalities are willing to steal from the best and use it as their own, because why reinvent the wheel when you can just literally take it from another municipality and make it your own? Just reform it a little bit. And I'm going to say this, preface this a little bit, in your short period of time as an elected official and as a SUMA board of director, have you seen any cases where municipalities have successfully collaborated between, whether it be other municipalities in the north or nonprofits, that you want other people to know about?
well, I I I've been meaning to talk to Abby about her municipality, and also the mayor of Laurent. Well, I mean, they are very well developed. They call themselves the capital of the North, which I believe is true. So, they also surround other First Nations communities where same thing as I am. My neighboring is I'm also First Nations of Clearwater River Nation. It's pretty much this is one line that you pass that border, you're on the reserve. So pretty much we're one community. But what I want to ask Abby was, and other, the mayor, the council of Laurent, I want to ask that I believe they have some sort of collaboration of the reserve and municipality working together. That is something that I've been working to achieve on, not just for my community. I've invited the chief and council to sit down. So in the coming new year, the chief agreed to sit down with me. So, mayor and council and chief and council to sit down. So to work on collaboration, because there are other programs where through federal grants or federal programs where municipalities and reserves have to have a collaboration of, I guess I'd say, an already existing collaboration in order for to access these dollars. This is to work in turn for your community, for both communities.
Now, we can talk about the past all we want. We can talk about what's happened, where we are, how we got here. But I always like to leave at the what does the future have in store? So now, as SUMA has entered into this new era of governance, has entered into this new era of caucuses, you have now entered into your mayoralship era. You've entered into your director era. I feel like I'm like quoting Taylor Swift's a lot right now. But for yourself, Lyle, what does the future have in store for municipal leaders in and municipalities in the Northern Caucus?
You know, right now, New North is partnering up with SUMA. Right now, we're trying to, because from what I hear from Mayor La Liberty from Beauval, he's been in around politics for a very long time. I guess one time in history, New North worked very well, and it is also SUMA did say that New North should be its own entity, advocating for the North through SUMA. So I hope in the near future, whether a year from now or 5 years from now, or the time that, my term is up, that I hope we are more well up and running again and more developed like SUMA. But I like to believe that we will get there, but it certainly won't take overnight. We're still dealing with some stuff, and we still need to find um, administrators and so on. But I hope that in the near future, for northern municipalities, that New North will be a great advocacy for the tool for northern municipalities, something similar in the lines of SUMA, whether an office gets going again in Laurent or wherever it may be, where New North decides, that SUMA will always be there as a big brother to New North. So that's what I like to see for the northern sector.
It certainly does, and that includes northern municipalities as well, because I know every time I'm in the SUMA convention, I actually got to chat with Mayor La Liberté from Beauval at this year's convention, and I'm looking forward to seeing him again back at next year's convention in Regina. But Lyle, Vice President, Mayor, I want to thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts for sitting down with myself, sitting down with representatives from SUMA as they listen to this, as they watch this, sitting down with Saskatchewan residents as they listen and watch this, and telling the story of Northern Saskatchewan and how SUMA and the Northern Caucus is working to help municipalities across your great caucus. So thank you so much for doing this from the bottom of my heart, man.
Yeah. Thank you so much, and I look forward to meeting you. And I have some stories.
Thank you again for tuning in for another edition of Muni-Cast. Now, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to Muni-Cast on your favorite podcast platform or hit that subscribe button if you're watching us on YouTube today. Until next time, thank you so much for spending a little bit more time with us, and we will see you down on Main Street.